So we got a little bit further in the build. And by a little further, I mean a lot further. He's kind of in camera there. So we'll switch to all of a sudden my yodeling attempts for music. Oh my God, I can do that myself. I mean, thanks for the offer, but I think we're good for the yodeling. Here's where we are with our purple greebly. So last time we had got to the point of I was just starting to sew the skin. So as you can see, it's moved on a little since then. I have glued in the skull, and I made the body and put that in, made the arms, attached the arms. This is all stuff that I've done before on stream, so that's why I didn't worry about doing it on stream, because you can just go and look at, like, on the YouTube channel, there's the Making a Greebly. That's pretty much all this stuff. All this is the same process that I've done a million times before on the stream, so... But that's the point. This is all accessible materials, but I'm doing the same process that I always do. I gotta turn this music down a little bit, actually, because it's a bit distracting for me. But anyway, I think it's looking pretty good. Let's go up to the puppet cam and see if we can get a better idea of how this critter is looking. There we are. Hello, I'm a professional puppet. Totally professional. I'd like some pupils now. There we go. So I think, yeah, I mean, I really, really like how the polar fleece looks. It has a wonderful texture. And I did pick these seams a little bit. Obviously, the seams are still visible. But, Lady Penny 30, hello, good morning, or whatever it is for you. So I'm really liking how this is coming along. I like it so much that I am definitely going to be using polar fleece more often in my regular builds. It's really nice to work with. Let's see if we can get actually a good close-up. It's really, because it's a little bit thinner, but it's also still dense. The precision that you can get, you just look at, you get a real good close-up, and autofocus cooperates. Come on, you can do it. I believe in you, autofocus. That's pretty close. Anyway, look how clean these mouth lines are. And that's entirely because of the polar fleece. So I'm a fan. I really like this stuff. I'll use this not just because it is a budget option, but because it's really nice to work with and it looks great. Nothing wrong with this. So anyway, this is the point that we're starting from today. So really today we're just going to do the facial features. And then it'll be done. So that's the goal for today's stream, is to finish this. So if you follow me on social media, you may have seen the pictures of this guy with, or girl, or whatever. I'm trying not to use gendered language. It's a bad habit. You may have seen the pictures of this with the orange eyes here. So you can get, again, keeping with the mindset that we're trying to use easily accessible materials and not expensive materials. So obviously ping pong balls are the way to go with the eyes. You can get these. You can get these orange ping pong balls. This is the first time I've used these. So you don't have to dye them. You don't have to do anything. You can just use them. I did sand off the logo, but other than that, you can just use these. Now, the problem that happened with these, I don't know which camera to look at, this one. What happened was, not all ping pong balls are created equal. Some are made out of different densities of plastic, some are made out of different qualities of plastic, so you really kind of have to hunt around a bit and find the ones that you like, because they will look different. And turns out, this is the first time I've used these, and they're quite sheer. So if you've ever seen me attach eyes like this before, what I do is there's a back plate and a couple of screws in here, and I make a hole in the ping pong ball, I inject glue into the ping pong ball, and then I screw it down onto the screw. And then the glue pools at the bottom and sets, and that holds the eye in place. And it's a really nice, stable way of doing this. The problem is, with the orange ping pong balls, that they're sheer enough that you could see the glue inside. It was really, really obvious and visible. In fact, if you look at my Instagram or whatever, you can actually see the little sort of pool of glue at the bottom. And it just, I was hoping when it dried, it wouldn't be as prominent, but it was real visible still. So I swapped it out for these. So these are 38 millimeter ping pong balls. They're a little bit harder to find. You can still find them, but the standard like tournament size, regulation size ping pong balls are 40 millimeter. And that's what these are. I'm using 38 millimeter in here because we're going to do eyelids on this. If you're not going to do eyelids, you can use whatever size ping pong ball you have access to. But make sure I get ones that are the right ones. Let's see. I actually do have like brand preferences for what to use for eyeballs and for eyelids and stuff, but that's just a matter of experience. You'll figure that out yourself. So these are the ones I like to use for eyelids. Viper brand. Because that's what you want in a ping pong ball, is something that sounds vicious and fast. So here we go. So these are 40 millimeter ping pong balls. These are like regulation size. These are the easiest ones to find. So if you're not going to do eyelids, you can just use these straight up. Do the backplate method. Very easy to do. But we are going to do eyelids. And so to facilitate making that a bit easier, we're using 38 millimeter ping pong balls for the eyeballs, and we're going to use 40 millimeter ping pong balls and make shells out of these. We're going to cut these in half and cover them with fabric. And those will go on the eyes much neater, and you can position them and try and get them even and everything. You'll never get it completely even, but this is a good sort of little workaround for being able to adjust it. If you can't get the 38 millimeter ping pong balls, you can still use the 40 millimeter ping pong balls and then cut them in half and make shells. They're just not going to sit like flush. They're going to sort of float on top of the eye. And if that's the look you're going for, then great. But anyway, that's what our first thing to do is we're going to start making the eyelid shells for our Greebly here. Now I've decided, are you doing the Dremel molten plastic shower again? No, definitely not. This is much less destructive process than that. One thing I've decided for this character is, in just looking at it and sort of seeing how it's coming out, because of the color and everything, I'm going to do this slightly goth themed. I'm a recovering goth, FYI. We'll tell those stories at some point. I grew up in the 80s, so you know. But I'm going to give it a big floppy mop of like Robert Smith hair. And we're going to do eyelids. I got that. I got an idea for that. Cardboard box. No. We're not touching the. In fact, I don't think we're going to use the Dremel today at all. So we're good. So I think I want to do the eyelids really, really far down. Like I want these eyes half closed, and then we'll do like the half pupils underneath, and it'll look like sort of either sleepy or smug, you know, that kind of thing. So what we want, let me switch to our top-down camera. We'll get the puppet out of the way here because that's distracting. What we want are two good halves of these ping pong balls. Now, when you cut a ping pong ball in half, you're always going to have one half that's a little bit cleaner finish and a little bit sort of deeper than the other. It's just the way that cutting works. So if you want two equally spaced halves, you usually have to use two ping pong balls. That's just the way it is. Now, we're not going to waste the other half. The other half, because one half will be a little bit deeper than the other, we can just match up the two halves, right? But we do need to use two ping pong balls for that. So we're going to do my not at all patented method, excuse me, of getting a little ring light here and getting a pencil. Nicavini, hello. How are you? Nice to see you. So as I have talked about before, ping pong balls are all put together. Let's turn off the lightsaber here. But not smog. So yeah, good. It's good. Yeah, I know, really. People are just showing up today. I don't know what's going on. Ping pong balls, cutting a ping pong ball in half. We've covered this before, but you know, we've got new people and stuff, so we'll cover it again. And also, repetition is comforting. So, let's say you want to cut a ping pong ball in half. All ping pong balls are put together in two halves. There's two hemispheres joined together here. So there is actually a center line. It's a good reference. It was a good reference. If I could talk like Benedict Cumberbatch, I would. So there is actually a center line here, but it's really quite hard to see. And so it's hard to kind of draw a line on, so you have a line to follow. But I've got this little portable ring light here, so what you do is you turn the ring light on, and it looks really cool on camera. Look at this. And also it means that I've got, if I put this on here, you can't really see this. You can't see this at all in the stream. It just looks like a glowing ping pong ball. But for me, I can see this center line much easier now. So it's much easier for me to go around and mark this center line. And this is just a little trick. It's basically a tracing table. Now, it's still not going to be completely even. It's not going to be perfect. That's okay. You just got to get it within a millimeter or two. And everything will be fine. This is why we're using two ping pong balls to make two eyelids. Because on each of these, there are going to be two halves that match up much better than the others. So, that's what we do. And we are definitely not using a Dremel to cut these ping pong balls in half. That will result in the same thing that happened with the bin that I tried to cut. It would just melt the plastic and shoot little molten fragments of plastic all over the room. And we want to avoid that. I am cleaving a ping pong ball in twain. You ain't never seen nothing as twain as this. Okay, so there we go. We've got our center line marked on both ping pong balls. We can turn off the arc reactor there. So now that we've got that, how do we actually cut these? Some people I know who are daredevils and hate their fingers will use an X-Acto knife to cut around this. I'm not anywhere near as coordinated enough to do that. So this is what I do. It's not the greatest method, but it works. Then you get a pair of shears. These are my foam cutting shears, so they're already destroyed. So that's fine. And we're going to start, we're going to take it all and we're going to make a hole. So that means no zap, no chainsaws. We're going to start making a hole. That will mean there's going to be a bit of a divot in each half, but that's okay because that you can use as like a marker point for where the bottom is, for example. So we're just going to make a hole with an awl right on the line. I'll do it here too. We'll digit this for you, exactly. Now, super duper professional puppet builders who have a much bigger budget than I do will go to a place called Plastruct. And in Plastruct, you can order hemispheres already done in any size you want, and they're clear plastic, so you have to paint them and stuff, but they're also monstrously expensive. I can't even begin to tell you. I don't even know off the top of my head, but I just looked at it once and it was like $14 for one. What? Are you kidding me? No. So here we go. We're just going to get our shears in that hole and start snipping away. I don't know if these shears are going to be the best for this. Maybe I should switch. These don't seem to want to do the thing. Now, you know what I should try? Let's see if this is going to work. This is just me messing around right now. These are sprue cutters for model kit building. This is to like cut a piece of model kit off a sprue. But the nice thing about them is they have a very flat edge. So actually that seems to be going really well. up to a point, and then you can't push it in any further. But we can get it started with this. That's pretty good. So what you want to kind of try to avoid is doing a lot of little snips, because you want to have this edge as clean as you can. That's not easy. That is particularly difficult. So I think these snips are going to have a limited use. They are good for getting it started, though, because they're very precise. But you can't, like, push it all the way in there, so don't think we're going to do that. What should we use? I don't want to use my good scissors on these. Why don't we even use these? I don't remember what I've used in the past, because I have done this lots before. Here we go. These are good. These little Fiskars scissors I usually only use for cutting thread, so this should be just fine. Here we go. That's going through good. But, you know, this is way more controlled than trying to do this with an X-Acto knife. And I'm able to stay on that line fairly consistently. Except these things lock up occasionally. And that's not great. But anyway, there's that smell. There's, apparently there's some kind of gas that gets injected into ping pong balls. The kernel of horror movie scripts, Puppet Maker of Death. Yeah, we could do that. Anyway, when you cut a big bomb ball in half, this is usually what you get if you use shears. You can't really see this on this camera. Let's switch to this one. Our good detail close-up camera. So you usually get one half that's fairly clean. It's a little bit ragged, but that's fine. And then you get another half that's got all this snippy, scraggly bits on it like that. And that's okay. We'll clean that off. But this is why the two halves aren't exactly the same, right? These are actually pretty good. This is surprisingly good. But we're still going to do both and then match up the cleanest and most even ones. So let's see if we can get these shears in here. Actually, you know what? The snips are really good for starting that line precisely. I learned a new thing today. If I start it with the snips, the line starts out much cleaner. And then I can get the shears in there. That's good. Even I learn. Is this on camera? Yeah, it's on camera. The X-Acto knife makes you some kind of Viking warrior. It's more like a combination of self-surgery and Russian roulette. It's just like you never know, because you have to apply force, right? And that's the last thing you want to do with any sharp implement that's going in the direction of your flesh, right? It's not going to just glide through. You have to push it. So, you know, it's going to slip, and it's going to go into some part of your anatomy that is between it and the end point. And I just don't think that I want to deal with that, particularly not on stream. There we go. Okay, so that's a pretty big divot we got in there. I got to figure out some way to not have to do the hole first. You can kind of mold the plastic back into shape, but it's never quite perfect. At any rate, so there we go. And once again, we've got the scraggly ends, and then we've got the clean ends. So let's take our two clean ends here, and those are not bad height-wise. You can't really see that because it's a top-down camera, but the unfortunate home surgery kit, yes, exactly. But these are pretty good, evenly. But you can see this one's a little bit deeper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to clean up these edges. I'm just going to snip off these little scraggly bits, and then we'll sand down the bases. And we'll see if we can match up two even ones. you don't have to get them like 100% precise, but the closer you can get them, the better it's going to look. So there we go. So we're thinking of those two. Let's see. Yeah, now I gotta sand down or file down those edges. We are going to be covering these with fabric as well, so you don't have to worry too much. Like sometimes, depending on the fabric you're using, like this one's got a bit of a logo on it. You might want to sand that off depending on what color you're using. This stuff is so dark that you're not going to see through. But if I was using a lighter color or nylon fleece, which I'm not using nylon fleece because this is not that project, I'd sand off this logo as well. You really do need a 200 kilowatt plasma cutter for this. Yeah. I just need a robot that I can hand it to and go, robot, cut this exactly in half. With mathematical precision, please. And the robot would go, I'm not programmed for that. I'm only programmed for etiquette and protocol. Oh my. There's my Anthony Daniels impression. You're welcome. There we go. That's what I'm looking for. One thing I learned, here's another little story from building last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, when I was building the lizard. The mouth plates that I had made for the Oracle, which we will be getting back to, are made out of this black thermoplastic that I had taken one of these emery boards and filed down the edges, make it nice and smooth. The thing is, that resulted in this sort of dark colored emery board being covered in basically something that was the color and consistency of charcoal dust. And I totally forgot that was the case. So then I picked up the emery board, did something, put it back, and didn't realize that I had now black dust all over my fingers. And then I touched the lizard, the face of the puppet, and got big black smudgy finger marks all over it. Thankfully, a damp cloth wiped it down. It went away completely. But that taught me the lesson that always check your emery board to see if there's anything yucky on it before you do anything with it, because there very well may be. Unless the robot just starts beating it with an old lunchbox. Well, you know. I'm crying. So once again, this doesn't have to be completely even. This just, I want to get this smooth and as flat as I can. Because our eyelids are going to follow these contours, right? So. And I talked about this before, but there are some puppet builders who very much look down on the use of ping pong balls for puppet eyes. Now, I can understand that, particularly with, like you're making something for TV or you've got a big budget production or something. But the argument against ping pong balls has always seemed a little bit shaky to me, because the prime argument is not about the strength of the materials, but it's about, ping pong balls always look like ping pong balls. And so what they do instead is they'll cast stuff, or they'll use other, hemispheres from Plastrock, that kind of thing. And then they'll paint them and they'll go to all this trouble. And what they end up with is something that if the average person were to look at it, they'd go, oh, that's a nice ping pong ball. So I'm making all the mistakes, so we don't have to. Exactly. I did it on purpose. This is an object lesson. Okay. Anyway, so yes, I am fully. I endorse ping pong balls. I think ping pong balls are great. The only limitation of ping pong balls, of course, is size. But you can get ping pong balls in several different sizes. You do want to shop around to find the brand you like the best, because the plastic is different opacities and different qualities. It is nice if you paint them. You can paint these. A lot of puppets made for the screen, particularly, are they're not white. You don't just leave this plastic. You usually paint it an off-white or stipple it with a little spray paint or airbrush or something to give it a slightly off-white or slightly shaded quality, and it's much better for the cameras to white balance and color balance the cameras. I don't worry about that unless I know for a fact this is something that's going to be used in a production like that. So I just use these out of the box. You use fingernail polish, create slightly bloodshot ping pong ball eyes and make them glossy. Yes, absolutely, you can. One of the things you can do if you really want to make like bloodshot eyes is use some like red fur or thread, and you can like lacquer on like just little individual strands of fur or thread, and it looks fantastic and really, really gross. You actually want to usually avoid glossy eyes because, again, if you're building this for the camera, that's going to reflect the lights. You usually want to make this matte. All the plasticky bits on your puppet, you usually want to make matte. These realistic human prop glass eyes. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Look, one of my favorite puppet series for design were the old Saturday Night Live puppets. The Land of Gorch puppets. Scred is my favorite Muppet of all. If you don't know who that is, Google it. And one of the changes they made for those puppets is all of the eyes for all the puppets were like literally taxidermy eyes. They were glass eyes from taxidermy processes. And they're very odd and creepy and slightly disturbing, but they look great. I should do that at some point. I really should. Now you got me thinking. Maybe we should switch up the Muppety look, you know? Anyway, here we go. We've got two pretty good hemispheres. Pretty evenly sized. So now what? We're going to cover these in fleece. We're going to use the same fleece as the skin of the puppet. Sometimes you want eyelids that are a different color, usually darker or a contrasting color. Taxidermy eyes, realistic teeth, and real hands like the Swedish Chef Nightmare puppet. Yeah, but that could be a good thing. Yeah. That wouldn't be a bad design avenue to go down, actually. That's a good thought. Taxidermy eye probably costs more than a bag of 30mm ping pong balls. You are correct. That is the opposite of this object lesson. That's like how pricey can you get. However, you can get some stuff. Actually, let me see if I can dig these out. What do we got here? There are budget options. Here we go. That and I think my other eyes might be buried. No, here we go. Okay, so for funky, interesting eyes, you've got a couple of options to bookend this series with an exotic material puppet. That's actually not a bad idea. So here, if you want to talk budget options, here's a really good option. These are doll eyes. These are the same kinds of eyes that I put in the smalls that are just the little black beads. For example, here, let's go to this camera. So these are just little black beads that I use for the smalls. And these are coming to, this is, I don't know, like maybe $10 for this box. But they also have lots of like plastic eyes with colored irises, right? And these are dirt cheap. These are nothing. Come on, autofocus. You get the point. Like I said, you usually want to avoid glossiness, but that wouldn't be bad on something this size. So you can like mount this in something, solid, like a ping pong ball, for example. I could just make a hole in this ping pong ball and then glue these down into it. And you got your mid-range. Well, it'll take me to buy today. My marketing voice. So that's a really good option right there. These things, and like I said, these are doll eyes. I got these on Amazon for literally, it was like maybe $10 for this box. Very accessible and very affordable, and gives you options. The other thing you can do, there's a really great company in the UK called Furry Fingers. Furry Fingers puppets. They do not just puppets, but components for puppets and a lot of 3D printed stuff. For example, here, let me show you these. These are horns that I got from Furry Fingers. And they're very nice. They're very pointy. These are all 3D printed. They're quite light. They're not as light as I would like. I was thinking about using these in the new Frankie, but they're a little bit heavier than I would want for that. But they're really great. They come with a nylon bolt that goes, like, it's mounted in such a way that it wouldn't be a problem for the performer if this was touching their hand. They're really, really well made. Like them a lot. Like I said, these are a little bit heavier than I would like, but they also make cabochon eyes. You can order them either directly from the company or obviously from Puppet Pelts. But I got these. I still haven't figured out what I want to do with these. Oh, look at that. I got a whole bunch of eyelid shells. I already had eyelid shells cut. What do you know? Oh, well. We'll use the ones we already cut. But let's check these out. These are something else. Yeah, let's do this. Ooh. Lego parts. That's an interesting thought. I never even thought of that. But look at these. These are great. And these are like, I think they were less than $20 for the pair. Again, these are like resin cast, and they've got the bolts in the back. These are really great. I find that you have to have a very specific character for these to look right, though. But nevertheless, I'm still waiting for the right puppet to come along to put these in. But nevertheless, I can't believe I already had a whole bunch of... All right, whatever. It's fine. I should remember that I've got those. Those would have to be able to pivot. Oh yeah, they can. They can. That's they're on, like, they have the same like washer and bolt system that these do, right? So there's actually a hole in the base of the object itself, and then you put the bolt on the inside, just like we mount the eyes, and that's the right way to do it for performer comfort, you might say. But anyway, one day we'll think of a use for those. But not this day. Today is not that day. Hashtag Aragorn speech. Today is the day that we cover these with fleece. So let me see. Let me get some of the purple fleece. This from the scrap bag here. Is this going to be enough? Yeah, I think so. So we got some of the purple fleece here. And we're just gonna trim this up. So, how are we doing for time? 40 minutes. I do want to finish this. It is going to be finished today, hopefully all on stream. But like I said, you got to just decide which is your front and your back. And we're just going to put some contact cement on these and do the thing. I have a tongue pre-prepared, as you can see here. Oh, I need some fluid. I am parched. Now you got me thinking about the puppet that's like all exotic, pricey materials. We're going to go out and catch an ostrich ourselves and get the feathers. We're going to dye feathers. All right, so this is a case where you really, really want to control your glue habit. If you're considered or done robotics, etc., thought about it, there's a lot of great Furry Fingers, for example, the company that makes those eyes. They also make like animatronic 3D printed eye rigs They're not cheap. They are more expensive than I would ever consider, but they're also very neat. But I'm a bit more of a manual kind of guy. I like the old ways, you know. So a lot of it's very, very cool. Luna's Puppets also does a lot of animatronics and robotics and stuff like that. And, you know, there's some cases where you just need that kind of thing. Like, it's the only way the Gorgs on Fraggle Rock are done is by, like, animatronic, like, radio-controlled stuff. Or the Skeksis, or dinosaurs, or the Ninja Turtles, or, like, you know, there's lots of stuff that you can only do with that kind of technology. And it's really cool, and yeah, I would love to get into it. It's also not cheap to even start. So it isn't something I've actually explored. And also, since everything I do like I'm a solo flyer. So for something like that, you would need a second performer, right? I got glue on my thumb. But yes, it is all very cool and interesting. But I'm with BJ Geyer in that use your mechs of any sort, whether it's manual or remote controlled. Use them lightly, use them sparingly. You can overdo it with mechs very easily. You want to give the performance to the performer and not to the eyes blinking all the time, or, you know, stuff like that. I'm a purist. I'm an old-fashioned purist that way. So we are putting a light coat of glue on all these surfaces. This is probably way too much fabric, but that's all right. We're going to trim it back. It's better to have too much because we want to go all the way to the edge. I'm getting it stuck to my fingers, so of course. We're probably going to have to do like a cleanup pass for the glue using this method, because I'm not using, usually to do this I use spray adhesive, but I think my Super 77 is all clogged up and it's time to get a new can, so I'm not going to risk it. So we'll do it manually, as it were. I'm actually kind of glad the orange eyes didn't work out, because I realized if the orange eyes had worked out, all there would be left to do on this puppet is the hair and then put like the pupils and the tongue in, and that would not fill up 2 hours. So it's kind of a good thing for this stream that the orange eyes didn't work out. This is a case where you don't really need to worry about what direction the stretch is going in, because obviously you're going to be stretching it in all directions. So that's why I didn't pay attention to that. Okay. Now we're going to make sure this is exactly the right dryness to hold properly. I think this will be fine, but let's just give it some insurance. Spray glue molten plastic clouds of various fleeces in the odd ostrich feather to seal the apartment room. What could go wrong? Exactly. There's nothing to worry about. All right, so we've got our glue on both surfaces, dried to tackiness. So now what we do is we take our half hemisphere, we put it upside down, and we press it into the very middle. We hold it down, and then we start stretching this fleece and pulling it up right to the edge. We just work out all of the wrinkles and all of the fiddly bits. This is, I just realized, the same fleece that I used for Millie the possum. Her eyelids are made like this. Millie is apparently quite the popular entertainer on the TikTok. So you do use tackiness as part of the technique, in both senses of the word, yes. Yeah, no, apparently Millie's has had some viral thing recently. I'm not on TikTok. I know I'm trying real hard to hold out and not be on TikTok, although I have a suspicion that once the new Frankie and the Oracle get made, I may end up on TikTok. It's just not my format. I like slightly longer form things, but we'll see. Apparently there's a lot of good puppetry stuff on TikTok that I really should not just miss out on, so. He's a simple puppet master, that's it. I'm just a simple puppet master trying to make my way in the world. Okay, there we go. So you see I've kind of crunched it all down in there, and I'm like really pressing it down, massaging it. So we're gonna let that sit for a minute. I'm gonna have another beverage. Another sip of my beverage. I gotta figure out a way to have coffee in a covered container. I'd like a beer stein or something. I don't like having a beverage in the studio while I'm working that is uncovered, just because sometimes there's fur and stuff flying around, so I don't want to get anything in my drink. But and I would love to have coffee while I stream, but it's that or a sippy cup, and I don't think that's the way to do it. Or should a lid on a coffee cup. There must be a solution. I'll make something, I'll build something. All right, so after you stretch this and let it sit for a minute, we're gonna see, this is always a bit dodgy, this part, because you gotta kind of pull it apart, see where it sits. And I think we're okay. I'm gonna start trimming it back. I find I always have to go in afterwards and clean up the edges, but that's okay. It's part of the game. Sam Waterston voiceover. I do them all. I just default to Frankie, that's all. So we're using the non-stick scissors because there's glue all in here. So I'm just going to trim this right back to the very edge. Get the bifocals adjusted here. Here we go. Here we are. That's actually not too bad. That may, in fact, do. You know what I should do is plug in the glue gun now. We're going to need it relatively soon. My mortal enemy, the glue gun. Ram tough. I think this is a voice I haven't actually used on the Oracle yet. I really should figure out a character for it. I keep coming up with these voices that are rough on my throat. That's probably not good. Frankie's hard enough. That's what anti-cat lozenges are for. Let me just close up the barge before I forget and move the tin. I've never spilled barge. Now that I said it, of course I will, but I can't even imagine what a nightmare that would be. All right, these actually aren't too bad. I'm going to go kind of like Captain Janeway. I guess that was kind of the Oracle. My Marcelana, yeah, I can see where you got Captain Janeway from. I love Kate Mulgrew. She is awesome. Okay, so that's not so bad. The edges are a little bit rough, but we can deal with that. Just gonna kind of trim these off and get them as tidy as possible. So now what we want to do is think about the eyeliner, which is that little black line that goes around. But these are looking pretty good. I wish this camera had better color reproduction. You can see that. Yeah, actually, that's not too bad. But you know, so the edges are a little rough, but we're going to put the black craft foam around here, so that'll be okay. Speaking of the black craft foam, so in terms of materials, craft foam itself is very easy to get. You can usually walk into a dollar store and find it. And it looks like this. Yeah, they come in several different colors. They're just sheets of foam. What about flocking eyelids? Flocking would be great. Flocking is also really a whole other thing. That would be in the exotic materials build. We'll talk about flocking in a minute. Yeah, you can get craft foam at any craft store, a lot of dollar. I've walked into a dollar store and seen this stuff in like their little craft section. Very, very easy to find, or you can get them on Amazon or, you know, lots of places will carry craft foam, and it's not expensive. A little bit, slightly harder to find, although still well within reason, is this stuff. This is craft foam with a sticky back. And this is what I use for my eyeline stuff. So if you can get this, get it. If not, you can still use the regular craft foam. You'll just have to glue the eyeliner on. A whole new category of microscopic airborne threats to your studio. You're exactly right. So flocking, as was the actual Kevin, mentioned flocking. Flocking is a broad term for a number of different techniques that involve taking individual loose fibers that are usually some kind of artificial material, like the stuff that goes on fleece, for example. It's usually just called like flocking fibers. You have to go to like a special place, like a manufacturer, to order it. And it comes in a whole bunch of different colors. And then there are several different methods of getting those loose individual fibers to stick to a surface. That's what flocking is. There's two main methods. The first is the kind that you see people like the Muppets use. So Miss Piggy is flocked. Bunsen Honeydew, I think. No, Bunsen Honeydew is carved foam. Swedish Chef is flocked for sure. Uncle Deadly is flocked. And the way that the flocking gets put onto the foam is with an electrostatic gun. And when you do, basically you shoot out a small chicken cannon. Yeah, exactly. It's like the object is negatively charged and the gun is positively charged. The particles in the gun are positively charged, and you just shoot this stream of particles. It's like airbrushing, but with electricity, right? So to do it, Gonzo approves. Yeah, Gonzo was not flocked, surprisingly. Gonzo was just carved foam and fur. But to do it, to actually do flocking properly, you need to be in like a sealed chamber wearing a hazmat suit. It's a whole thing. There is a budget version of flocking that BJ Geyer teaches in his course. And basically what you do is you just use spray adhesive. Like you get the flocking fibers and you spray adhesive on the surface that you want to flock. And then you put the flocking fibers in a flour sifter. which if you don't know what that is, look it up, I guess. It's like a canister that has a handle on it and a little sort of sieve on the bottom, and you pull the handle and it sort of sieves through and lets all the material fall through. Crazy Harry plays electricity. Henson thought of everything. Exactly. But you put the flocking fibers in the flour sifter, and you hold the flour sifter above the surface of the thing that you're flocking, and you just press the handle of the flour sifter, and you let the flocking drift down, and it sticks onto the spray adhesive. It's really, really smart, really clever. It looks great. The only difference is with electrostatic flocking, the fibers kind of sit. They get like stuck to the material, and they sit upright. So that's why they have that kind of almost fleece-like texture to them. All the fibers are sitting straight up, and of course with the flour sifter method, they just kind of float down and stick any way they lay. So flocking's great, but not accessible at all. I've never done it. I only know in theory how to do it. I've never even touched flocking fibers, so maybe one day we'll get the flocking. Anyway, back to the eyeliner. So I use, if you can get sticky back craft foam, do so. I got this on Amazon. It's not expensive. But if you can't get the sticky back stuff, still get the craft foam, and you'll just have to put glue on the back of the craft foam. This just helps it stick while I place it. That's all. That's the only reason for the sticky backness. So we want to cut a strip about less than 1/4 of an inch, less than 1/8 of an inch, like just a real. You can change this up, and different width eyeliner will give different character. I usually like, I don't know, it's hard to tell about that much. The important thing here is you want to make sure you cut it evenly. Really easy to not cut it evenly. So this is a case where you do want the X-Acto knife or a razor blade. And there we go. There's our little strip. Now the stickiness of this is not going to hold it on terribly well. The ends, when you put this around, the ends are going to lift off. So I put it on, I get it seated properly, and then I put some crazy glue, or super glue, or whatever brand name of super glue that you have access to. I put that on the ends and just kind of hold it down and anchor it with the super glue, and that way they won't lift off. Which is what we're about to do. Also, with the eyeliner, don't feel limited to using black. In this case, black works really well, but I've done I've had a light blue eyelid with a dark blue eyeline. The other day I was playing around with this. This is some green for the eyeline. It wasn't quite dark enough, but nevertheless, you can do lots of different things. Dark brown works really well. It really all depends on what the character is. In this case, black works really well. Now, one thing I'm going to do before I stick this on is I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to kind of bevel. Hey, Kevin, I have both the Franciscan tonsure and the Tintin thing going on with my hair today. Is that okay? Well, honestly, only you can answer that question. The Franciscan tonsure, is that like the ring? I could do that if I really focused on it, I guess, but the Tintin thing is kind of like a faux hawk, I guess. You're asking me for hair consultants? What are you, nuts? I wouldn't take hair advice from me. So I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna slightly bevel off the edge of the fleece, just so the eyeline foam will kind of sit in there nicely and have a place to go, because this fleece is a little thick still, so we just want to kind of trim. We don't want to trim it back from the edge, we just want to kind of thin it out along the edge. And you are going to see a little bit of the white. I find that that's okay. If I could find black plastic ping pong balls, that would be fantastic. tonsure is a bald spot on the top, on the skull cap, which is actually for thermal reasons. They shaved that spot. Interesting. I did not know that. And here's me, a fan of medieval history. Franciscans were what, like the 14th century? I watched so much Time Team and loved the late great Professor McAston so much, and he had a real passion for medieval monasteries, and I got to know a little bit about it. All right, let's try it. So I'm actually going to cut this in half. You also want to try and make the end cuts here as square as possible. So just because you're gonna connect the end points. 12th, flying buttress delivered, no heat. 12th, huh? So okay, that would have been right around. So was it the Franciscans that were on Lindisfarne? Is that who the Vikings raided? We're going off on a bit of a tangent from puppet building, aren't we? So here is where the divot, when you made the hole, actually this one came out really clean. There's no divot. Okay, so if there's no divot, then you just kind of got to decide there's where the divot was. So this is going to be our starting point right there. We'll continue our discussion on Franciscan hairstyles in a moment. I got to focus on this. Thank you. All right, so we're pressing that down, and then we just want to make sure that we're going evenly around the circumference. And I'm kind of going half over. You can't really see that here. I'm kind of going half over and half exposed, if you see what I mean. Now, like I say, this adhesive that's on the craft foam will not hold this. It will hold it except for the ends. The ends will slowly lift off. So we're going to put some super glue on that as a form of insurance. The Tintin swoop is holding so far. You know what you need for that? You need some spiking glue. That's what you need for that. Or, literally, you can put this stuff in your hair. All right, there we go. So I've reached the end. We've got a little bit of an overlap. I'm going to trim that off. And I'm not going to press down the ends yet, because like I said, we're going to put super glue in there. The Dorn hairspray, French formula. That was when I was growing up and had hair and wanted to do interesting things with it. That was the preferred hair product. We didn't have all these fancy sculpting clays and things. You kids today with your rock music and your dungarees. So there we go, and that looks pretty good. I'm pretty sure I have to spray Gorilla Glue in. Don't do that. That young lady had some serious problems when she did that. You think she had a rough time? Imagine the second person to do that. What they're going to go through. Yeah, we talked about that on a former stream. I guess you weren't around. So the whole thing about the lady who used Gorilla Glue spray in her hair, that thing got A, blown way out of proportion. What a surprise on the internet, you're kidding. And two, it was actually kind of understandable what she did. So, as I said previously, the subject of black women and hair is a very complex one, and something that if you are not a black woman, probably aren't qualified to comment on. But nevertheless, hair adhesive products are wide and varied, and there is a product called Gorilla Snot that is a hair adhesive product that is very common. And as I said, there are types of glue that you can put in your hair safely. That Elmer's white glue, you can absolutely use that in your hair. It was a mistake that she made, no doubt, but it wasn't completely like, oh, some idiot put Gorilla Glue in their hair. It wasn't like that. It was an understandable thing that happened, and she suffered big time. Not just from the social media backlash, but she literally physically suffered. They had to get specialist doctors in. And it wasn't that she tried to sue the company. It was that she needed the money to like pay for her medical expenses because America has no health plans. So anyway, that's the thing. It was a much more complex situation than, social media made it out to be, of course. But everyone wants to jump on it and go, oh, look at this idiot, right? And it's like, no, it's not. There are nuances here that you're not getting. So yes, that woman suffered big time, and she has subsequently donated the money to charity, I believe. So there we go. That's what I got to say on that. Don't be so quick to judge. That's what I'm saying. So what I'm going to do now is get the super glue and anchor down these endpoints. What super glue should I use? Hey, I know. How about Gorilla Brand super glue? Keeping with the theme. So the only problem with this is I usually end up gluing my fingers to something, but there's really no other way to get in there and really give this the go. So it is what it is. So sometimes if I use a pin, I can, because the problem with super glue is you got to like apply pressure. You have to hold it down and let it bond. So maybe this will go. So I didn't mean to go off on you, actual Kevin, but it was a nasty situation, and people were far meaner to that woman than she deserved. There were nuances to that situation, which of course get completely lost on the blood in the water crowd on social media. But, it's just like the famous thing that everyone likes to cite for nuisance lawsuits, the woman who burned herself with a McDonald's coffee. Have you ever seen the pictures of the burns that woman sustained? It was horrific. She absolutely should have sued. The reason you sue a company is because that's the only language they understand. Nothing else will work to actually affect change. You have to talk with money. And you have to talk with a lot of money because that's the only thing that they'll react to. So it's not a matter of nuisance lawsuits. It's a matter of actually getting the company to do something. Corporations are not your friends. They're there to exploit you. And that's all they do. Except for Operation Puppet, of course. There, I glued my fingers together. You happy? All right, I'm just going to put a little bit more glue on here just for insurance. I hate it when these things lift off with no warning at all. So I'm not going to put these on just yet. I'm going to wait for that glue to do its thing. And while we're waiting for the glue to do its thing, we'll start thinking about the hair, because that's going to be special. But anyway, there we go. There are our eyelid shells. And those just pop on. You just glue them on. Speaking of glue, plug in the glue gun. Glue gun is plugged in. Okay. So, hair. Speaking of hair, so the colors I want to do for this critter are, I want to do the fur part of the hair, I want to do black. And the feathers, I want to do a mix of black and purple. Very gothy. So you'll have to excuse me. I'll be off camera while I excavate for my black fur. Excuse me. Thanks for the research. So the moral of the story is never reach for the glue when you mean to reach for the snot. Basically, yeah. She did actually ask on social media, apparently, if it was okay to use that stuff. And I think she got some bad advice. Because she was in a hurry, she had to go out and she needed to get her wig on. It was a whole thing. It was a whole completely understandable thing. And like she admits it was a mistake. She shouldn't have done it. She knows that. But, you know, things happen. Life is weirder than you think sometimes. Sometimes you just gotta make do with what you got to hand. And that's what she had to hand. Okay. There's some black fur. That's really a nice black fur too, actually. Where did I get this black fur? I think it's maybe Fabric Empire. So, cleaning up the edges here. Also, never trust the interwebs, particularly lot. Yeah, exactly. It's so hard to know, right? So we've got the nap of the fur goes this way, obviously. So we want to make sure that it doesn't really matter because what we're about to cut is pretty much a circle. So we'll just put it the right way when the time comes. We'll take our tin Super 77 that I need to replace. And we're just going to use this as a template base. I'm using a silver Sharpie here so we can see it. Now, I want a fair amount of fur. I think I'm going to give it a really wide seam allowance. We're going to go long in the back. I always freehand this just because it gives a little bit of variety. And we'll get our probably extremely dull razor blade and cut this out. Oh, that's actually doing okay. Now, you know what? I think I replaced this relatively recently because this is just gliding through like butter. Here we go. One puppet toupee. So as usual, what we want to do is, this already looks good. We want to go around, put some glue around these edges, and then fold this over so we don't have a nasty net edge. I want to pull off the loose fur to start with. Don't need that getting all in the glue. I got silver Sharpie on my hand. That's the first time that's happened. Let's make sure that it's cleaned off so I don't get it all over the puppet. Okay. It'll do. So, get our glue. And go around that edge. Yeah, I don't want to get fur all in the brush, so I'm going to use this. You know what I should use is one of the sponge brushes. I got like 1,000 sponge brush heads because I use sponge brushes for the handles of my arm rods. So I just pull the sponge brush part out and I keep it because they're good for little stipple brushes. But I've got a drawer full of them now. Like I really should start using them for stuff. And this is a good case for that. So instead of talking about it, you should just reach into the drawer and get it, Kevin. I was thinking about this morning. I realized that I was narrating part of my coffee making process as I was making the coffee. And it was because I had streamer brain happening, right? Because we just keep talking. So I think that's a legitimate excuse now. If you're one of those people who just talks to themselves, and you know, lots of people are, and it's perfectly fine. You could just tell people that you're a streamer. So anyway, here we go. This is the little head off sponge brush. And so we just get our glue. Yeah, this is a good thing to use these for. I'm just going to go along the edge and lay on some glue, and then these don't matter. You just throw these away. I got like 1,000 of them, so. These are meant to be disposable anyway, which is terrible, and I really wish. It's one of the big downfalls of puppet building is it is not a very green process. Creates a lot of waste and uses a lot of like petroleum products, like foam, for example. It's an oil-based product. These kind of adhesives are all toxic. All right, there we go. That brush has served its purpose. Excuse me, I have a bit of a runny nose. So, I'm going to mute my mic while I blow my nose. Because nobody needs to hear that. Okay, so now we're going to dry this off. And I'm going to fold that edge over. Nice and tidy. So we've got the mournful violin again. What's going on, Epidemic Sound? It's like we're being sad in a fishing village. There we go. Here's our little toupee. So next we want to make the feather crest. And that's going to get real interesting. I'm not exactly sure how I want to do it yet. But let me just see what colors we have. Oh, great. My bag of feathers is buried under some fleece. Oh, let's see. Okay. So, boy, we got some options here. I did say I wanted to mix black and purple. Those are words I said. Let's see. Oh, here we go. There's some black. I need to save some of that because I'm going to need a fair amount of it for the oracle. Yeah, that's a good length, so I don't want to spend it all in one place. Purple. Here we go. Oh, here's some good length purple. There we go. Maybe it'll be purple with black interspersed. Oh, we also have this very light pinkish. Oh, I think we'll go with the purple. Looks better. Yeah, I think I'm actually going to go more purple. We're going to do purple base with black streaks because I need to save some of that black. It's the only, I think, the only black I have right now, and as I said, I want to save a bunch of that for the oracle. It does seem to be the only black I have. Oh, time to order some more black. Is this the same purple? Yeah, it's the same. I got a lot of purple feathers. Look how that happened. All right, so that's what we're doing. We're doing purple with black bits. That'll still be sufficiently gothy, I think. So, actually, there's a fair amount of the black. I still don't know if there's enough to do the oracle, but we'll see. I may have to steal the old oracle's beard, which is just funny in itself. But I want to do a lot of feathers on this critter. In fact, I can just do that. There we go, done. Nah, we're gonna get a little more fancy than that. But I might use this whole package. Why not? When in doubt, add more feathers. That's the mantra of puppet building. It's gonna make this real tricky to do, but let's see. It's going to make it real tricky to glue because, you know, using the hair dryer on this being so long, it's like, nah, that ain't going to happen. I was getting coffee. The tin is the whole thing to keeping track because everybody wants to know. But you know, I should make an extension as the tin holding. Alright, so the first thing I'm going to do is try and straighten out these little folds in the ribbon. Now I want coffee. I have lately been drinking my only tin I brought back from the last time I was in New Orleans of Cafe du Monde chicory coffee. It is making me wistful and wanting to go back to New Orleans. Maybe one day. All right, I am absolutely going to use this whole thing. So this is going to be a bit of a challenge. Bear with me. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put some glue all along this ribbon. Trying very hard not to get any of the feathers in the glue. Coffee with dried mushrooms. I know, right? You know, that doesn't sound all that weird because, like, it's a similar thing with chicory. The reason, like, chicory is actually, I think chicory might be a mushroom. I know it's a root. And the reason that they started putting chicory in coffee was because coffee, I can't remember when, the year, the era this was, but coffee became, I think there was like a blockade or something. Coffee became very difficult to obtain for a while, and this was after, of course, everybody got addicted to coffee, so they needed to make what little coffee they could get their hands on go further, so they started adding chicory, which is basically just a bitter root. And, you know, you could make more coffee if you added chicory because it just sort of made the coffee grounds go further. And it just became like a taste in the South that it just had chicory coffee. And it is an acquired taste. It has a kind of bitter earthiness to it, and it's quite nice. They used chicory to pad coffee during the rationing of World War II. Yeah, exactly. But it's the preferred coffee in New Orleans and in a lot of places in the South. And of course, the Café du Monde is the famous cafe in New Orleans to get beignets and your chicory coffee. And of course, they sell the chicory coffee. And I brought back 2 tins last time we were in New Orleans in 2019. And I am now drinking the final tin. I'm gonna be sad when it's gone. You can still order it, of course, online, but it's a little bit pricey. So here's my theory with the glue in these feathers. Since it would be nearly impossible to use the hairdryer on this, the fact that this is so long, by the time I get to the end, the beginning end will probably be dry enough to start working with. We'll just see if that theory holds. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut little bits of the black and intersperse it in with this purple. Very similar to how I did Millie's feather crest. She had black and gray streaks. Like, this is so long it's hanging off the edge of the table. If this were to fall on the floor, it would be a tragedy. I have to be very, very careful. Personally, I also have bylaws requiring tea to have 110% sugar content. Yeah, you know, I've never actually had sweet tea in New Orleans yet. I should. I'd probably love it. I mean, I do have a bit of a sweet tooth, so. I do tend to take my tea fairly sweet anyway. But yes, I am familiar with the phenomenon of sweet tea. I see, now I'm thinking about New Orleans and the food. Now I just want some red beans and rice, or some gumbo, or some jambalaya. And I can make all that stuff. It takes effort. Okay, so here we go. That whole ribbon is glued. Now I'm going to cut little pieces of this black. Well, I'm pretty much using it all anyway. Oh well. I'll figure something out. I'll just have to get some more and hope it's the right length. That's the problem with ordering ostrich feathers online, is you never know exactly what length. When you're there, do you adopt the patois accent now? Well, sometimes I do. This is why I do the Jelly Roll voice. Based a little bit on Dr. John, but it does become very natural, I have to say. After a while, when I come back, I have to remember to switch back. I don't actually have a voice of my own. I'm like Peter Sellers, It's just like there's no me. It's just the various characters. All right, so I'm putting a little glue on there, and what we're going to do is carefully lay these in at various points. Yeah, but it's real hard to not, to do the Nolans thing. I have a high school friend who lives there, and she's definitely a top-tier tour guide, real estate agent. Oh, really? We did an excellent walking tour. I'm always a little bit wary of all the touristy things. Like, we don't do the Bourbon Street thing, or we don't, we're there for the music and the food and the culture. We're not there to get drunk and vomit in an alley. So we generally avoid the very touristy things. But we did do a very nice walking tour last time we were there, for the French Quarter. The gentleman who was doing the tour is very, very well informed, and they're actually licensed by the city. Oh no, there's a breeze coming in the window and blowing my feathers into the glue. You evil breeze. Curse you and your kind. Ah! Oh boy. That got really bad. I got a lot of feathers in that glue. Ugh. All right. Well, we'll just have to live with it. There we go. Now what have I got? 2 more? That seems like it might be overkill, but I told she could also dance under the table. Well, that's the thing about New Orleans. It's just like the culture is so steeped into every corner of that city. It's like you literally just walk down this street and there's music everywhere, and it's such a wonderful vibe. I cannot get enough of it. It is people at their best. That city has been through hell and back, and they're still going. You cannot keep them down. And it's all very, very important to them, right? That's the thing. Their artistic culture is so much a part of who they are that they fight to protect it. And that's a beautiful thing, because that's part of what makes us human. I admire New Orleans to a huge degree. There was an excellent exhibit in the museum when we went about the aftermath of Katrina. I did not get out of that exhibit with dry eyes, I can tell you. All right, trying not to get the feathers on the glue. I think maybe this is enough. I think more than this would be overkill. We start here, we end here. Yeah, it'd be fine. We're good. We're good. We're just going to go with this. Okay, so let me just put some glue on the outside of the black. So when we roll this up, it'll stick, hopefully. But I mean, the New Orleans is the entire reason there's a character on the Oracle that's from New Orleans, and it's Jelly Roll. There's another character we're going to be making on stream, because I got to make a new Jelly Roll. Thankfully, Jelly Roll is so simple that it shouldn't be any issues. He says that now. Yeah, a whole puppet crew film. Well, you know what? They kind of already did that. It's called the Electric Mayhem. Both Dr. Teeth and Floyd have New Orleans accents. Dr. Teeth is based on Dr. John, the famous New Orleans musician by Highland Haven Maven. I'm fine. Everything is fine. Okay. I gotta focus. Stop talking about New Orleans, Kevin. So I'm gonna roll this up. We want a nice big roll at the end of it. So here we go. Please stick together. Am I off camera? I'm not only off camera, I'm like covered up what I'm doing. I can't move this. I'm sorry. I know it's obscured, but so one thing I'm going to do with the Oracle after all the new characters are made and the new Jelly Roll is made is, of course, everyone, I'm assuming we're still going to be largely in lockdown, so everyone's working from home, and Jelly Roll is in New Orleans, of course, so Jelly Roll is going to be broadcasting from New Orleans. Oh, this looks really good. If I was 16 again, I would absolutely have this hair. So, speaking of budget, ostrich feathers. Again, very easy to find. Most fabric stores will carry them. I got these on Amazon. You want to search for ostrich fringe. And also not expensive. And these are great for, they just add so much to a puppet, and yet they're not hard to work with. They're not expensive, and they look fantastic. And they really up the quality level too. They add a whole lot of what's called secondary motion, which is always a desirable thing in a puppet. Okay, here we go. That was a trial. This end is not sticking because the glue got too dry. But at any rate, look at this. That is a big old mop. So I think what I'm going to do, instead of... Look at, oh man, those colors. Here, let's see. Maybe we can get a better look at it this way. That's going to look great. I just want to put a little blob of hot glue on the end point here to stop this from unrolling. And the glue gun should be nice and hot by now. Now, being very careful to not actually touch the glue with my finger. We'll hold this in place for a sec. So, like I usually do, I'm also going to put a rim of black fur around this ribbon so you don't see the ribbon once I glue this down. And that's next. We're actually really close to being done. Oh man, these feathers just look fantastic. Oh, I can't wait. They're gonna be flopping over his eyes. Their eyes. I apologize. Again, old man. That's my excuse. Okay. Wow. That was intense. Making a big bundle of feathers like that takes some effort. So here we go. We got a little more black fur. I just want to cut a strip of this, but make sure that the direction of the fur is the right way. So, okay. Hopefully this will be long enough. Let's see. Moving the hot glue gun out of the way. I'm moving the hot glue gun out of the way so you can cut something with a razor blade. This profession is not for the faint of heart. All right. See if that is long enough. If not, I'll have to cut another piece. Oh, no, I'm not going to use this. See how this is right on the edge? So the fur got cut right here. We don't want that. That's terrible. Awful. Couldn't be worse. And no, I don't have any. What I need is a long strip of fur where the fur is going to go in the right direction. I can't use this edge because this is like the factory edge. It's all gnarly and got a whole bunch of sizing on it and stuff. It's real gross. Although I might be able to get a strip out of here. Hang on, let's see. I just hate wasting stuff. I could just go cut a new piece, but I'm trying to cut down on wastage. So let's cut the gnarly bits off. All right, and away you go. And now our maximum width will be this. So let's see. I think this might be good. That's not bad. Yeah, that'll do. So this is going to get glued around the base here with the fur pointing up. And so how much do we need? Not nearly as much as what I cut, but that's fine. Better to have too much than not enough. Let's get a rough estimate. But there. Carefully trim it. Trying to not trim the fur, but only the backing. There we go. And again with the barge. So this, you have to be a little bit careful here because you don't want to get. You got to make sure you get in the right direction. You don't want to get glue all over the place. You don't want to get glue in the fur. You only want to get it on the backing. This is another good place for a sponge brush. You opened the wrong door. So if you're wondering, just in case, you get these sponge brushes. You can buy these in bulk, and they're very, very cheap. They're meant to be disposable. And what I do is I'll buy like a pack of 50 of these, and then I'll hold out the sponge brush. This one didn't come out cleanly, but usually they come out with the hole already there. I'm always wondering. And so I just drill out this hole, and then there's a handle for an arm rod and a sponge brush. Normally they come out like this. The little peg thing comes out too, so you get a pre-drilled hole. It's nice. And it's way cheaper than going and buying dowel rod and cutting it. And, you know, I can make a batch of arm rods real quick with that method, much faster than I could if I was using dowel rod. That's one thing we haven't. I don't think we've ever made just a batch of arm rods on stream, have we? I should do that. All right, glue's on that end. And I'm going to put some along the ribbon, being very careful not to get any glue in the feathers. Thankfully, that's really easy with a sponge brush. You just go along the edge. It's real good. I'm going to use these more often. Sorry, now I'm off camera. That's the thing about the bifocals is I got to actually get my face real close to the thing I'm looking at. All right, that looks pretty good. And we could just throw the sponge brush out without hitting your hand with the gluey end, which I just did. Pro tip, don't do that. This is why the paper towels are always close. Excuse me. Okay, is that all we need barge for? I think maybe we're done with the barge on this build. That's always an exciting point. So let's dry this off a little bit. And making sure that we're putting the fur going up. We're just gonna glue this down around the whole circumference. Like so. Press it to seat it. And there we have it. So now we can just glue that directly to the head, and we've got the nice edge. Just play any little gluey bits that we don't want to show. So now we start final assembly. Should have some special music for that or something. So what I'm going to do, we'll do the eyes first. So let's actually switch to this cam. Let's check those eyelids now. Yeah, those are good and solid. That had some wet glue on it. Darn it. Come here, you. You get you cleaned up. It's your big moment. Don't be doing this. Okay. So get our greebly and get it. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm actually going to, for when I need to take photographs of these and I don't want their mouths wide open, I use these little chip clips. And I just go inside and we put a little chip clip. on it. And this will hold the mouth in a more neutral position, and that way I can kind of get the features a little bit better aligned. So there we go. You know, and it also can sit a little more naturally, and I kind of have it facing me more directly. So, there we go. Got our eyelids first. So what the goal is, I think, well, it already looks good. So yeah, we want a real sleepy time, right? We want like really, I just want to get a feel for how they should sit before I stick some glue on them. All right, because we do the half pupils. I think that's pretty good. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue one at a time. Let's put some hot glue on the inside. Trying not to get any little stringy bits of hot glue. It's always a challenge. You always get little spider webs of hot glue everywhere. And we're going to go in and we're going to try and seat it correctly in kind of one go. This is always tough getting this aligned. It's never quite perfect. But it's the only way I know how to do it. So once we've got one in, then the goal, of course, is for the other one to match, which is the challenge. Don't want to put too much glue on the inside, because if you do have to move these around, that's the nice thing about the hot glue is you've got a little bit of working time. You don't want the glue squishing out over the edges, right? So let's see, that's actually pretty good. That's not bad right there. Here we go. So I made sure I've got those end points in the back, and that's where the other hair is going to be there, so that'll cover that over. But that's pretty good. That's not bad. 2050 Western Series. Yeah, you did measure that the other day. All right, so the next bit is the feathers. So I'm just gonna. It's Sig Zig Sputnik. Oh, that's so good. Oh, wow. That's great. Look at that. I don't even know if, yeah, I'm going to put the other bit of hair on it too, but that is so good. Ah, yep. Remember, we set out to ask the question, can you make a good-looking professional puppet with accessible materials? I think we have our answer. All right, so I'm just going to hot glue. This is one of the few places where hot glue is actually good and useful. Hot glue in the base here. Now we want to be real careful. I have to get up for this. Really, really got to do this sort of, do it right the first time. Boom. Oh, that's so good. If this doesn't sell, I don't know what would, because this is another one of those I don't want to sell it things. These are ostrich fringe. This is called ostrich fringe. If you're gonna like search for it online, it's just ostrich feathers. It literally is. Actually, I can even show you. Excuse me. I happen to have an actual ostrich feather right here. So all these are just like these little fronds here, and they clip them off and they attach them to a ribbon. And it's very convenient and easy to work with. It's real nice and cheap, and you can find it pretty much in any fabric store or craft store. I got these on Amazon. Real easy to get. You want to search for ostrich fringe. Oh, this is so good. I feel so egotistical every time I say that. Otherwise known as good cat toys. Yeah, no, my either Jimmy or Dax would have these down their esophagus in no time. This is so good. Okay, anyway, let's put the toupee on. So I'm gonna turn it around here. Yeah, it definitely needs a little something back here. But yeah. I feel really bad. Like, you know, I am far from the best puppet builder. But sometimes when something works, I'm as surprised as you are. That's what it is. I'm not like going, oh, my work is so great. I'm going, I can't believe this looks as good as it does because I'm such a bumbling idiot. But anyway. So, hot glue on the toupee. Not advisable for human toupees. And once again, being very, very careful. And we just kind of want to lie this in place, like so. Ow. Yep. I just napalmed myself, everybody, live on camera. Freebie PDF idea for building your mailing list. Search terms, these materials. Good idea. I don't actually have a mailing list, but when I do. All right, let me just get my hand in here and make sure this is all seated properly. It's very Ziggy Stardust, actually. And that's nothing but a good thing. Oops, I got a bit of glue smear here. I'll have to fix that later. A little bit of glue leak. Nothing to do about it right now. I'll have to wait till it solidifies and then scrape it off or just hide it with more fur. Always an option. But wow. Okay, you know what we need to do before we go on, before we do the final bit, is we put the tongue in. I totally forgot about the tongue. I think it needs a tongue. You don't always need a tongue, but this, I think, because the red will add a nice little splash of color. See, I told you, hot glue is just, it's murder. Anyway, I did prepare this tongue ahead of time. The tongue is made out of craft foam. Again, very easily found material. And we're just hot gluing that in. Finally, the Cricut. Yeah, this was cut on a Cricut, although you don't need to. Speaking of Cricut, I just found this out this morning. I don't keep up with Cricut news, so apparently they had a plan to change every Cricut over to a subscription service. They have a subscription service already, but they were going to like make it so you can't use it without the subscription service, and it's like, no, that's ridiculous. So apparently they backed away from that, but it's like the fact that they even thought of that was like, Is it glitter on a song? That's not a bad idea. I am going to do, for Pride this year, I want to do like a themed Greebly. I want to do like a rainbow Greebly. And then have the proceeds from the sale of it go to, like a queer charity like Trans Lives, or Trans Lifeline, or the Trevor Project, or something like that. And that's not a bad idea for that Greebly. See, some glitter I think would need to happen for the Pride Greebly. But I'm going to put the chip clip back in now. I can get this really great rainbow fur. So I think that's going to be real fun for that little project. So that's coming up for this summer. The Pride Greebly. Okay, I think this glue will scrape off okay. And not pleased about that, but oh well. accidents happen. That the hair was a little bit longer than I thought it was. So now we got the final thing. It's the pupils. This is a special part. So let's just get everything lined up. I don't need the hot glue for this, so we're gonna put that aside. So let me grab a couple of pupils here. I'll be off camera for a sec because I already have some cut, but they're on a sheet over here. So we're probably only going to need one because we're going to cut it in half. But I'll grab a couple just to be on the safe side in case it does not work out. Okay, good. So what I've got here, I got one pupil that has already had the backing taken off of it. That's why it's on the pin. And I managed to get one off of the sheet that still has the backing on it. So I'm going to start with this one. I'm going to cut this in half very carefully. That looks to be about half. That's not quite half. I don't like that half. Hang on, I'm going to get another pupil. Much like the eyelid shells, it was really hard to get that perfectly even. There we go. So speaking of Cricut, this is on a Cricut mat that I couldn't get these eyelids off of, or these pupils off of, without major destruction. So, okay. So I know it's hard to see on camera, but I've just cut these in half. These still have the backing on them. This is sticky back velvet. Again, for accessible materials, sticky back velvet's really easy to find. I got this on Amazon. If you can't find sticky back velvet, you can just use felt. Put some glue on the back. Or you can draw it on with a marker, although that's not advisable. It's hard to get them even. This way, you can actually reposition them. But I'm just going to try and get the sticker back off of this. And now we need to put it on a pin. This is the preferred method for seating pupils because you can kind of lift it off and position it, because eye focus is really, really important. And so you want to make sure the pupils are in the right position. Always. This is what can make or break the whole puppet. So I've got these two half pupils. And so let me do it this way. That looks pretty good right there. Yes. Yes, excellent. My creation is coming to life. There. Yep. Yes, indeed. Well, what's our time? 2 hours, 6 minutes. Beautiful. Is there any provision for adjustment of the position? Yeah, so that's why you use the pins. Because then you can get the pin and you can sort of lift it off and reposition it if you have to. In terms of the actual where they're placed, you want to make, it's known colloquially as the magic triangle. You want to make them slightly cross-eyed, so there's always, I don't always nail it the first time. This time was pretty good. I may actually adjust these a bit, but you can see when it's looking in the camera, you can really tell that it's looking in the camera, right? You want to make them slightly cross-eyed so that there's sort of a point of convergence. If you were to draw rays out from the eyes, they would converge onto a point. And that's how you get good eye focus. Hello, camera, went weird when I did that. Yep, you don't like that at all, no. So that's what you want to focus on. You want to make them a little bit cross-eyed so they will converge into a point. And if you can get that right, that's your good eye focus. And sometimes you do have to fiddle with it and move it around. But there we go. There's new Goth Greebly, and I think it looks fantastic. Here, let's do the final camera test. But no, I don't nail it the first time. I'm well practiced enough that I can get it every now and then. It goes well. Like this time, that went pretty well. But again, I may still fiddle with that. All right, hang on. Sorry, I'm gonna get the arm rods here. I always struggle with the arm rods. So the thing is, we wanted to know if you can make a professional puppet with affordable and accessible materials. Yes. There we go. There's new Goth Greebly. Oh boy, I like it a whole lot. Yeah, the plumage is good. Thank you, Connor. Hello. Yeah, so the whole point is, this is polar fleece. This is upholstery foam. This is materials that I got either locally or from Amazon. Doll joints, easily got at craft stores. Everything that's in this puppet is something that you can get affordable and accessible. And there's no reason to get the expensive stuff. You can absolutely do this with accessible material. So there we go. Lesson over. Success. I like this a lot. Again, this is one of those things that I don't really want to sell this, but I will. Because it was a great object lesson, but boy, I'm real happy with that. So I'm going to break. I think I deserve some food. So that's that. Thank you for sticking around through the experiment. I mean, this was as much for me as for everybody else, and I like it a whole lot. And I'm going to be using some of these materials, particularly the polar fleece, way more often, just because I love how it looks. It's lovely to work with, and it's not monstrously expensive. So here we go. Lesson learned. Thank you so much, folks. I'm going to break now. There may be a stream on Friday. I'm actually done all my store stuff now for the month, so we can get back to Frankie and the Oracle. So I think that's what we're going to be doing on Friday, is getting back to the Oracle, and hopefully we'll get real close to finishing it. So anyway, thank you so much. Have a great day, and hopefully we'll see you on Friday. Stay tuned to my social media. I'll announce if I'm going to stream on Friday or not. So there we go. Anyway, good day.